Um, I'm Julius Kaloy. I'm the head of enforcement and surveillance, a department that is formally called Good Distribution Practice. And on behalf again of our CEO, Dr. Sioi, friend, and the Director of Health Products and Technologies, Dr. Mohammed Hamed, and on behalf of my colleagues here, and we wish to give a brief on an activity that is ahead of us that we've again started for this week going forward. This is an activity that is touching unauthorized wholesalers of pharmaceuticals products and unlicensed transporters or transportation vessels. Those are the vessels that are used again for transportation of pharmaceutical products. And I'll start with the first item, the enforcement of unauthorized wholesalers. As we touched from the first time, this was not part of our activity. And now we have unfolded this as focus because, again, as we say, that our main area in eradicating illegalities in pharmaceuticals, the wholesalers, both authorized and unauthorized, is our focus. So this week we focus on unauthorized wholesalers, and these are people who are basically doing wholesale without a wholesale dealer's license. And these are engaged into, or they are classified into 3 areas. Our first criteria of these people are people who have a retail license and using it to do the business of wholesaling or distribution. So these are people that we are putting targets. We've always told them to ensure they concentrate on the purposes of the license that is issued. The purpose of retail license is purely to sell medicines to the consumer, the patient, is not to distribute medicines to the other retailers or any person who intends to sell to the consumers. So the license is purely for sale of pharmaceuticals to the consumers, and those are the patient. So the retail license is not purposed to do distribution or purposed to do wholesaling. So in this case, as a focus on that, we have 2 sanctions. One, if we find a retailer who is doing a wholesale practice, the superintendent of that license has to be put on EDC, the disciplinary section of the board, for purposes of malpractice. 2, the premise itself may now also be put on disciplinary and license withdrawn, because the purpose of that license was not meant for distribution, it was meant for retail. The other part of the unauthorized wholesalers are now the people who are using vans to distribute medicines around, and that issue now serves us on 2 major areas. And one major area, it serves now to do a transportation of pharmaceuticals with an unlicensed vessel or transportation vessel, and also now unauthorized wholesale practices. For those vessels, they could be coming from authorized retailers, or probably those are people who are doing an illegal distribution without any form of a license. So we'd also want to request the media and the public, if they find people, we normally call them briefcase people, who purchase medicines, put them in vehicles and start moving around in premises, trying to purpose that they're disputing for a certain outlet, where now even those outlets basically does not even exist. So we want it to be noted on the friends in the media, the public, and also our colleagues in the practice, and specifically the professional bodies, to also keep on lookout to check whether there are people who are using vans to distribute medicines from premises that are not registered. You know, people buy medicines from distributors without existing premises, and they put on their vehicles and they start moving around selling those medicines. That is part of our focus. And for this week going forward, we have engaged the police as well as we are talking, the IG has also given authorization to his county commanders, and who have also communicated to their OSPDs and the team at the ground to also assist us in intercepting those type of people who are trading on that. So for them, let them know alongside the roadblocks, the police may also intercept and give information to us. Going on this as well, I need to note that there are also the wholesalers who exist, and they have wholesale warehouses that are not declared. And I'll repeat this because, again, we touched it last time, and this is also our focus because these are also unauthorized warehouse that we need to check. So you have a wholesale setup, you declare a warehouse that you are trading in, but along the interior part of the area that you are trading, there is a warehouse that you have not declared. And these are risk warehouses because, again, I repeat, that these are areas that you can easily access medicines that are either not registered or products that are not properly regulated. Because of existing of the authorized warehouse, then we have an opportunity to ensure that they are actually licensed. So that one I'll note on that, and insist that in the case of a regulated person or regulated premises, again found to be practicing wrong things that you are not licensed to do, then the board has a very functional disciplinary structures that they will be committed to and put into sanctions that are prescribed in the law. I want to also note that we have issues touching on transporters, which is also part of our activity. Again, I said our activity this week is in two parameters. One, unlicensed, unauthorized wholesalers, and unlicensed vessels. So coming to unlicensed transportation vessels, I would want to touch fully that the rules and the guidelines are very, very well spread. They properly affixed to law since 2022. In fact, for the guideline for transporters existing from 2019, we'll be doing some reviews, and all the parties that are participating in the transportation of pharmaceuticals have been put into the engagement. Nobody who doesn't know that these things exist. So the business of the inspectorate at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board is basically to enforce. And that's why now we are out to enforce these rules, the relevant laws and the guidelines. So we are only touching and saying, who are these transporters? These transporters, one, are the courier services. It is the responsibility of the owner of the product, and it is the responsibility of the owner of the courier services or the directors to ensure that their vessels are properly regulated by Pharmacy and Poisons Board. There is no application here about who regulates the vessel. Our vessels, the vessels that we are regulating are the vessels that are taxed to transport the pharmaceuticals. So the responsibility of the owners of the courier services or any form of transportation of pharmaceuticals is to ensure that those vessels are registered or they are licensed. The responsibility of the owner of the product is to ensure that the product are transported by a licensed courier services. For example, I'll give an example of say, do you have nation couriers, isn't it? So it is the responsibility of the nation courier owners to ensure that the nation courier is licensed. It is also the responsibility of the people who are using the nation courier to ask for the license of their courier services. So we have two sanctions here. So it is not an issue that when we intercept your medicines, remember what are the exhibits that we use in court to prosecute these illegal transportation vessels? One is the vessel itself, is an exhibit. Secondly, is a product. Because you have to show that this vessel was transporting pharmaceuticals, isn't it? So the owner of the product will lose his products. The owner of the vessel will also lose his vessel because it's an exhibit. So what we are trying to say here now, the owner of this product must ensure that their product are safe through ensuring that the vessels that are transporting their product are well licensed by Farmers and Poisons Board to do that kind of a service. So these courier services, we know all of them. And then I'll come down now to the public transport system. Because the courier services are like G4S, the Fargo couriers, the postal system of transportation, and all other transport system for this courier services. We have also noted, like, probably is it NT, the companies, is it Monoline? Monoline, the Neno-Sacco, they have also their courier services outside the public transport system. Their courier services are also supposed to be licensed. They are not exceptional from these other courier services that are being licensed. I also come to the public transport system that are also transporting medicines from one point to the other. You find that, for example, a matatu that is moving from Nairobi to Kakamega or Bungoma, sometimes they buy medicine, where people buy medicine from town, they load them in those matatus. The owner of those matatus should also know that it's a risk to transport medicines without the transporter's license. Remember, the transporter license is not only the license that we want them to have. The conformity of the vessel to transport the medicine is an issue in us. Okay? Because you cannot transport the vessel, for example, you cannot transport the medicine, for example, in an open, pickup in such hot areas where the medicine can easily get damaged through the intensive heat and all these kind of things. So we are trying to say those public transport vessels, they are also risking themselves to transport medicines, because at some point we intercept and look at it to check whether those vessels are licensed. We also have cross-border transport system. These include the buses. And as we are talking now, we have already, these things we have to tell them because it's not a secret. It does not mean that they cut off their transport system today because we are the crowd, because this is a continuous exercise. So if they so wish, they can actually comply, because that's the way to go. I will touch this cross-border transport system. What are these cross-border transport system? Of course, these are the buses. And I will again continue insisting, these are the buses that are on transit from our neighboring countries. I'll look at the buses that are moving from Namanga to Kenya, or from Tanzania to Kenya through Namanga Bonda. There are those buses that are passing through Busia Malaba and also to Kenya, that is Uganda, Kenya. There are those buses that are moving from Moyale, Ethiopia to Kenya, and equally also those that are crossing Mandera through Liboyo, Mandera town to Kenya. Do they even know that these services that they are offering to transport pharmaceuticals is a regulated services? So we are again saying we have a team that we put along those border to work with the police along the border point to again intercept those buses and check whether they are actually transiting medicines, because it's also, those are actually a risk transport system that can also easily bring medicines that are being used in our neighboring countries to our country. So as soon as they come in, we are checking two things: whether these medicines are either registered to be sold in Kenya. They are also checking whether the vessel itself is registered or is licensed. So our focus is towards those type of areas. Then I also look at the online deliveries. We have online deliveries like Bolt motorbikes or the Ubers themselves. You realize that people are delivering through those courier services or the online courier services without being licensed. That is also our focus, and I think for today our brief purely enters into the illegal or unauthorized distributors, and equally the unlicensed transporters. And I think based on that, those are a few things I wanted to mention. But on a brief, I would request my colleague, Dr. Kilonzo, who is the head of Lower Eastern region with me, to also put this message in another language that people would understand, probably Kiswahili as part of it. So Dr. Kilonzo, please sit here.
Asante. Hamjamboni. Kwa majina ni Daktari Kilonzo. Mimi ndio kinara wa Pharmacy and Poisons Board, halmashauri ya ukaguzi wa madawa na sumu, kitengo cha Kusini Mashariki. Jukumu la hili halmashauri la ukaguzi wa madawa na sumu kwanza ni kulinda afya ya jamii kutokana na madhara inaweza kutokea kupitia madawa ambayo labda hayajashikiliwa vizuri kutoka mahali yalizalishwa mpaka wakati mteja wa mwisho ambaye ni mgonjwa anayoyapokea. Kwa hivyo tuko na jukumu kubwa la kuhakikisha kwa kila njia hiyo dawa inapitia, kutoka kwa mtambo ule utatengeneza hiyo dawa, kutoka kwa zile chembe tofauti ambazo zinaunganishwa kukua ile dawa. Majukumu yetu yanaanza kule mpaka wakati mgonjwa atapata ile dawa. Kwa hivyo ninazisisitiza kana kwamba majukumu yetu ni kulinda afya ya jamii kutokana na madhara ya madawa. Hivi kwamba ili zoezi tuko nayo kulingana na kinara vile ameeleza ni mambo mawili. Wauzaji wa jumla wa madawa na wauzaji rejareja wa madawa. Hizo ndizo leseni ambazo tunakabidhi wahudumu wa madawa wale wanakuwa chini yetu. Wauzaji wa jumla wana jukumu la kuhakikisha kana kwamba wanauzia wateja ambao wako na leseni kutoka kwa halmashauri husika ambalo ni la ukaguzi wa madawa na sumu ya Kenya. Iwapo watauzia watu ambao hawana leseni, hiyo ni makosa, na tutawatafuta na tuwapitishie kulingana na vile sheria inasema. Kuna wauzaji wa rejareja ambao jukumu lao ni kuuzia tu mgonjwa madawa. Wengine wameenda wanauza jumla, na pia wanauzia watu ambao hawajulikani kama wamekuwa wanakuwa na leseni zetu. Kwa hivyo hilo ndio tutakuwa tukiendeleza katika hili zoezi. Imeanza leo mpaka tukiendelea. Kuna pia wasafirishaji pia, ili kulinda ili dawa ambapo inapopitia kwa magari ya usafirishaji, tuna jukumu la kuhakikisha kana kwamba lile gari linasafirisha madawa iko na zile stakabadhi muhimu zinahitajika, kama zile zina regulate temperature, ndiposa hiyo dawa wakati wa usafiri isiharibike na ifikie mwananchi ikiwa iko na hali ambayo inahitajika. Kwa hivyo tuko na jukumu ya kuhakikisha kana kwamba yale magari yanayosafirisha madawa yako kwa hali ambayo ni thabiti kuhifadhi hayo madawa kutoka inapotoka mpaka pahali itahitajika kwa mwananchi wa kawaida kuchukua hilo dawa. Kwa hivyo tutakuwa tukiangalia hawa wasafirishaji, tutakuwa tukiangalia kama zile vyombo zao zimekaguliwa, zimethibitishwa na zimeidhinishwa na kupewa leseni kana kwamba wanaweza hilo jukumu la kusafirisha madawa. Sio kusafirisha madawa kwa magari ya abiria, kwa magari ya pickups na mengine ambayo madawa yanaweza kudhuriwa na majanga ya weather kama vile temperature nyingi ama mvua, wakati kama huwa mvua. Kwa hivyo hayo ndio majukumu tutakuwa tukiangalia na tutakuwa tukiyatekeleza kutoka wiki hii kuendelea. Kuna magari mengine ya usafirishaji wa umma pia yao yanajihusisha na kusafirisha madawa, hasa yale yanaenda miendo mirefu, kama kutoka nchi moja mpaka nchi nyingine, hata kutoka tauni moja mpaka zingine. Kuna magari ya abiria pia yanajihusisha na usafirishaji wa madawa. Tunasema kana kwamba hiyo sio sahihi, kwa sababu hakuna mtu anaweza kudhibitisha yale maadili ya madawa kama huko ndani ya ile basi itakuwepo. Zingine zinawekwa kwa carrier huko juu, zingine zinawekwa kwa boot, na wakati hizo dawa zinafika mahali inahitajika, inakuwa sio dawa tena, haiwezi kufanya ile kazi ambayo inatakiwa ifanye. Na mtakubaliana na mimi kana kwamba wakati mtu anaenda kupokea madawa, hiyo ndio wakati anahitaji usaidizi kabisa. Wakati mtu ni mgonjwa anahitaji usaidizi kabisa, kwa sababu tunataka kana kwamba hiyo dawa ikipoteza umuhimu wake itakuwa tu ni kazi bure kumpatia mgonjwa. Hivyo ndio tunataka umma pia watu ushike mkono, wakiona hayo magari wanajua kwamba yanafanya jambo mbaya, wayaseme kwetu, tutayafuata na tutahakisha kana kwamba zile dawa ambazo ziko kule zimekuja na njia mzuri na zitaweza kufanya kazi. Kwa machache nafikiri ndio hayo nimeweza kutafsiri. Mkurugenzi sijui kama nimefikia kiwango, lakini hayo ndio nafikiri nimeweza kutafsiri.
Na reja ni wholesalers and retailers. Sasa tani nasoma Kiswahili sahihi. So fine, and I think that's a message, but let me also put a simple message on retailers also who are also offering online services. That is an illegal practice, because our Farmers and Poisons Board, we register online dealers are separate from retailers. But most of our retailers have also engaged up into the online services, where you realize that they are getting prescriptions through a WhatsApp from patients, and then they send the product through their riders now to be delivered in their state. If it is not a registered online pharmacy, then it is doing an illegal business. Let that message be very clear to our people who are practicing a retail business. So if you are doing retail business and you are practicing an online pharmacy business, then equally the next plan is you. The next plan is you. Because we will not allow, we will give people space to do the job that they are licensed to do. We will give people space to do the job that they are licensed to do. If you are licensed to offer online pharmacy services, do it. If you are licensed to offer retail business, then do it. If you are licensed to offer a wholesale business, then do it. So also remember last time we were checking the wholesalers also who have mixed their business with the retail job. Then if you are again licensed to do the manufacturing, then don't do the other businesses. So those are kind of business that must be separated. So with that few remarks, we appreciate the support that you're giving us to deliver the message to our colleagues and equally to the public, because it is our responsibility as the inspectors and as a board to protect the public health or the life of people through ensuring that the medicines that are being dispensed is of good quality and safe for them to use.